all the F1 Constructors Champions in history. In 1958, the first F1 championship was awarded to the constructor, or builder, of a car. The winner was Vanwall, with the Vanwall VW5 under the helm of Stirling Moss, Tony Brooks, and Stuart Lewis Evans. The small British team is the only constructor not to have a driver win a Drivers' Championship and was no longer competitive after 1958. Another British team, Cooper, would win again in 1959 and 1960 with the 2.5-liter four-cylinder Climax-powered T51. These were driven to success by Jack Brabham, Stirling Moss, and Bruce McLaren, and were the first cars to win the F1 Championship with the rear-engine configuration. When bigger teams like Ferrari and Lotus switched over to rear-engine cars, it spelled the inevitable end of Cooper. In 1961, cars were limited to 1.5 liters of displacement, and American Phil Hill won the first of many Constructors' Championships for Ferrari with the rear-engined Ferrari 156. The victory for the Italians was short-lived, however, when Graham Hill and his BRM P57 won their first and only Constructors' Championship in 1962. Lotus would win the first of many Constructors' Championships in 1963, thanks to Drivers' Champion Jim Clark and his Climax V8-powered Lotus 25, followed by John Surtees in the V8-powered Ferrari 158 in 1964, and Lotus again in 1965 with a mix of the Lotus 25 and the Lotus 33. Engines were upgraded in size to 3.0 liters for the 1966 season. Jack Brabham and his Brabham Racer found success in 1966 and 1967 with a mix of 3 different cars and successful drivers like Denny Hulme and Dan Gurney. The Brabham and its drivers proved to be more reliable than the newer Lotus cars with its Oldsmobile-based Repco V8. 1968 would mark the rise of Ford's Cosworth DFV V8 engine, which would help the Lotus team and its Lotus 49 win a championship. A DFV-powered car also won in 1969. But this was the French-built Matra MS-80 chassis, which was fielded by British team Matra International and driven by the great Scott Jackie Stewart. In 1970, Lotus won the Constructors' Championship again, first with the Lotus 49 and then with the Lotus 72, which was introduced in the middle of the season. The cars were notoriously fragile, and driver Jochen Rindt would die qualifying the car at Monza. Rindt still won the Drivers' Championship, albeit posthumously. Matra International would become Tyrrell, and a Tyrrell-built Ford-powered car would win in 1971. This would be their first and only Constructors' Championship, with Jackie Stewart behind the wheel. The Ford-powered Lotus 72, fielded by John Player's Team Lotus in black and gold with Emerson Fittipaldi, would continue to be dominant in 1972 and 1973. The 1973 victory came after Jackie Stewart and Elf Team Tyrrell withdrew at Watkins Glen, following the death of teammate Francois Sever. McLaren Racing, founded by former F1 driver Bruce McLaren, won its first of many championships in 1974, again with Ford power and champion driver Emerson Fittipaldi behind the wheel of the McLaren M23. Ferrari would return to its winning ways for 1975 with the Ferrari 312T and Austrian driver Niki Lauda. Ferrari won again in 1976, although James Hunt in a McLaren Ford just edged out Lauda for the Drivers' Championship after Lauda crashed and nearly died at the German Grand Prix. This provides the plot for Ron Howard's F1 epic, Rush. Both Lauda and Ferrari won again with a variant of the 312T in 1977. 1978 would be the beginning of the ground effect era in racing. Lotus's Colin Chapman and other engineers hit upon the idea that they could create an immense amount of downforce on their Lotus 78 if they made the underside of the car more like an inverted wing. This idea was furthered with the Lotus 79, which would be almost unbeatable under the command of Mario Andretti, when it didn't fail. Ferrari would take the ground effect lessons from the Lotus and apply it to the 312T chassis to create the 312T4, the last 312T car to win a championship in 1979. Mostly on the back of its incredible reliability and solid driving from South African driver Jody Scheckter and Gilles Villeneuve. Williams, a team founded by an upstart traveling salesman and at one point operated out of an empty carpet warehouse, won its first of many championships with the Ford-powered Williams FW07, and drivers Carlos Reutemann and Alan Jones in 1980 and again in 1981. 1982 would mark the beginning of the turbo era in F1, which, coupled with ground effects, led to massively powerful and fast cars. Ferrari would win the 1982 Constructors' Championship, with the 126C and its turbocharged 1.5-liter V6, but lose the Drivers' Championship after driver Gilles Villeneuve died in an accident at the Belgian Grand Prix, and driver Didier Pironi nearly died in a similar accident in Germany and retired from racing. The Ferrari 126C would win again in 1983, again without a Drivers' Championship. By 1984, McLaren had found success with a Porsche-designed Turbo V6 branded as a tag engine, as well as French driver Alain Prost and Niki Lauda, going on to win the Constructors' Championship with the MP42 in 1984 and 1985. 1986 is considered by many to be the peak of F1 power, and the Honda Turbo V6-powered Williams FW11 managed to win the Constructors' Championship with Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet. They won again in 1987, although rules changes would see a drop in power and start to mark the end of the turbo era. In 1988, the famous rivalry between teammates Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna sent McLaren to 4 straight Constructors' Championships, first with the MP44 and its turbo V6 Honda engine that year, followed by the naturally aspirated Honda V10-powered MP45 in 1989, the MP45B in 1990, and the MP46 in 1991. 1992 would be an important year, as Williams would perfect the FW14, a Renault-powered car with hydraulically controlled active suspension that helped Nigel Mansell easily walk away with the championship. In 1993, Alain Prost would leave McLaren to join Williams and help them win another championship with the even more advanced FW15C. Active suspension was banned in 1994, but Williams still won with the FW16, despite the death of new team member Ayrton Senna. The dominance of Williams took a brief pause in 1995, when a Renault-powered Benetton won their only Constructors' Championship with Michael Schumacher in the B195, a year after they were mired in controversy over the suspicion that they were using illegal traction control. Williams was once again up in front in 1996 and 1997 with the Renault V10-powered FW18 and FW19, under the wheel of Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve, son of Gilles Villeneuve. The cars were both aerodynamic and reliable, putting them ahead of the Ferraris. A McLaren-branded car would win its last Constructors' Championship in 1998, this time with the Mercedes V10-powered MP413, driven to a Drivers' Championship by Mika Häkkinen. Despite having a highly successful and championship-winning driver in Michael Schumacher, it wasn't until 1999 that Ferrari got the Constructors' Championship they'd been missing for more than a decade, with the Ferrari F399. This would be the start of a long streak for Ferrari. With the addition of co-driver Rubens Barrichello, Ferrari and Schumacher would win in 2000, in 2001, and so on in 2002, 2003, and 2004. Renault ended Ferrari's streak in 2005, when they won back-to-back cars with a Renault-powered V10 R25. In 2006, V10s were replaced with 2.4-liter V8s, and Renault won again with the R26. Famously, Renault used a mass damper that consisted of a weight in the nose of the car, suspended by a hydraulic spring to keep the car from bouncing around. This was soon banned. Ferrari again won the Constructors' Championship with a new V8-powered car in 2007 with Kimi Räikkönen, and again in 2008 with the F2008. Albeit with Lewis Hamilton winning the Drivers' Championship in a McLaren. 2009 was a strange year, with Ross Brawn's Brawn team pulling a victory with Jenson Button and a Mercedes engine in their BGP001. Brawn was essentially Honda's team, but with a different name and engine. It was also the year that F1 started allowing teams to use hybrid-like systems to store energy created during braking. Brawn's victory was short-lived, and Red Bull Racing, built out of older teams, would find a victorious combination with driver Sebastian Vettel and Renault engines, locking up its first of many Constructors and Drivers' Championships in 2010, with the RB6, followed by the RB7 in 2011, RB8 in 2012, and RB9 in 2013. The cars were designed by Adrian Newey, who had previously built winning cars for McLaren and Williams. The 2014 season brought out the reintroduction of forced induction engines with a new formula specifying 1.6-liter turbocharged V6s and the mandated use of the hybrid-like energy recovery systems. In 2014, Lewis Hamilton led the pack in his Mercedes-powered Mercedes F1 wo6 hybrid, which has been described as one of the most dominant cars in the sport's history. The next year, the team won their second Constructors' Championship with the wo5 successor, the F1 wo6 Hybrid.